Hello, everyone. I wanted to wait, but I got tired of waiting. So if my co-host wanders in, then that'll happen. Anyway, this show is going to be on a little bit different of a topic, and it's more of like a philosophical topic opposed to strictly paranormal. But in some ways, it does tie in with the paranormal, or can, depending on your mindset and what you believe to be reality. And when I talk about reality in the context of this show, basically what I mean or what I'm referring to is existence. And it's something that I think about a lot. And it's one of the things that kind of, I don't know what the right word is. I'm just looking at notifications. It's one of the things that plagues me, and I don't want to say interests me, but I don't know the right word. But it's worrying in some ways, depending on your view of what you perceive as reality. And I never even really thought about it as a child. It's something that came about later, and my views have changed and continue to change, and probably will continue to change as I continue learning and trying to be open-minded and take in as many different ideas. Whether or not I agree with them or not, I still find it's useful to hear what other people think and how they perceive things and things of that nature. So one of the things that basically kind of changed my mind about how I perceive things is, and I don't know what the correct term is, but it's basically the idea that there really is no separation between people or really anything. It's all one thing. It's just a matter of your perspective, and you're basically seeing through the eyes of a different angle of the same thing. And I don't know if that makes any sense at all, but basically we're all one thing. And that can be taken a lot of different ways. And I think some religions kind of have that view, but it's either perceived differently than that or has been changed to be something different than that. But I think that's one universal thing with a lot of different spirituality types, is that we all are connected in some way. So yeah, anyway, Yeti, can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right, so good, I can hear you. Good stuff. I haven't
Sorry.
really said anything in depth so far. I was just going on kind of like what's changed my perception. And one of the big things, getting back onto that, is my delve into spirituality, which I have not continued. Uh, at least not the path that I was taking. I was trying to take the path of enlightenment, and at least the way the one person was suggesting to do it, I didn't agree with. And I'm sure there's a lot of different ways you can get there. And sometimes, I don't know, maybe you just stumble upon it. I don't really know. But I didn't really agree with a lot of the things that he was saying. So I don't know. I just kind of fell away from continuing to listen to him. I know that might be a shitty thing to do. Like, oh, I don't agree with you. I don't, all these things. So I'm not going to listen to you anymore. But I don't know. I feel you get to a certain point where it's like, if you really don't agree with a lot of what somebody's saying as far as like teaching, I guess, I just don't see the point of continuing to be a student per se. So,
Yeah. I think a lot of that stuff, you got to come under that on your own. Some people can show you certain things, but nobody can really tell you. It's your own path, you know.
right. And he,
Yeah.
and to his credit, he did say that. but he was kind of conflicting in some of the things that he said, or maybe I'm just not understanding him properly. But on the one hand, he's saying, well, I can teach you basically things that can lead you to enlightenment, but as far as how you reach it is going to be dependent on you. And I don't know. But on the same token, he's like, you have to meditate. There's like no other way. You have to meditate. You have to do at least an hour a day, this, that, and everything else. And I've tried to meditate. I can't do it. I just can't. I can't silence my mind.
You're right. A lot of people, well, no, I take that back. Not a lot of people, but some people just don't have that ability. You're right. For the longest time, I couldn't, because I couldn't get the voices in my head to shut up. You know?
Yeah.
And then I realized how to do it, and then it's not for me, you know?
Yeah. I don't know. I do think there's a lot of good that can come out of it, but again, like you said, it's not for everyone. I don't know that it's necessarily for me. It's not to say that I won't revisit it at some point, maybe once things aren't as chaotic, and I'm more at peace with myself, maybe then I'll be able to do it, but I just can't.
I will say that it can calm you down. It's an excellent tool for like calming your mind, or even relaxing you to the point of getting yourself to sleep. Like if you're having, a hard time going to sleep, if you have a certain thing that you're meditating on. I mean, you don't even have to do, tantras. You can just concentrate on one certain thing, one certain item, and just focus all your energy and everything towards that. And it can calm you down to the point of, I don't want to say a Zen state, but to a very mellow state.
Yeah. And I guess maybe that's why I have such an issue, because it's like complete opposite of how I am by nature.
Right.
I'm very uptight. I have a lot of trouble relaxing. I'm very high strung, I guess would be more accurate. And it's not something I like about myself. It's just how I am. And I'm working on being more relaxed, but it's not a choice. I don't like being so tense, but it's just how I am. But anyway, kind of veering off topic already, but I did do a good amount of research, and I have researched it in the past, just the different views on what people consider reality, like our existence, what does it mean? Like the meaning of life is like one of, if not the biggest question most people have. And that's not necessarily going to be the topic of this, but it kind of relates to it in a way. But there's a lot of hypotheses about what exactly is reality. And there's actually been scientific studies done to try to prove either way, like what exactly it is. One of the concepts is we live in a simulation. Another one that's somewhat related is that life is a hologram.
Yep.
Another view is that the past, present, and future all exist at once. There's really not much separation. Like all that pretty much exists is the present moment. And then there's different views on physicality, whereas the physical world exists outside of us. Like if we weren't here to perceive it, it would still exist. Then there's the other one, which is quantum realism, which is there's nothing exists unless it's perceived, basically, which kind of goes in with the whole virtual reality thing to an extent. But those are just a couple of the things that I found to try to explain our existence. And I won't delve into.
Sorry. No, go ahead.
No, I was just saying I'm not gonna say what I believe or currently believe until we delve more into it necessarily. but I think they all have merit to an extent.
Yeah, the one that I came across, which it baffled me, um, was they were basically saying everything that you see around you, everything that you can see, you can perceive, none of it is real. It doesn't exist until you think of it or see it. I mean, uh, and I just couldn't wrap my head. I couldn't wrap my head around that. I mean, basically, like we're just sitting in a big vacuum until somebody thinks of something. But that didn't make sense because what I perceive could be completely different from what everybody else perceives. If that's if that's literally the laws that we're bound to, I mean, you could put me in a room with somebody else and I could perceive a dragon and all that shit, while the other person just perceives a room, with I don't know, like a bedroom or something. I didn't get it. It didn't make any sense to me.
I mean, I kind of get it. For me, and this is kind of negating what I just said, but to me, what makes the most sense to me is that our perception is reality, and it's not just like the common, phrase. Like, I don't know if it was meant to be as deep of a statement as it was. Like, I don't know if people really think about what exactly that means. Most people just take that as, well, you believe what you want to believe or whatever. But when you really think about it, it's a lot more deep than that, or can be. And I really truly believe that our perception is reality. Because if you see something a certain way and truly believe that that's how it is, there's nothing anybody can do to change your mind about it. And that is your reality. Now, what exactly that means, I don't know. I mean, is there a reality separate from your reality where that reality is more real than what you're perceiving as a reality? I don't know. I guess it depends on what theory you believe is accurate. Because if you believe in the one, it would say that you're literally creating your reality.
Right.
Like, it's physically becoming your reality by you thinking it or perceiving it in that way. And there's a lot of merit to that, like just by personal experience. And it kind of goes with the whole, like how positive or negative you are. You create your own issues. Like if you're optimistic, you're a lot more likely to have good things happen to you. Obviously, it's not always the case. Otherwise, there'd be some people where nothing bad ever happens to them. But I feel like it's more of like the energy you put out in the world is typically what you get back. So if you put out positive energy and think positively, you're more likely to have positive results. And that can be because of the whole you create your own reality thing, or it could just be something else. I don't really know. It's kind of confusing to me, and I mean, we'll never know. I mean, there's not going to be scientific proof either way, because science is not absolute. I mean, it might be absolute for this moment, but like things that we had scientifically proven years ago are not the same today. It just depends on how advanced our observations are, the tools that we have to work with. And, there's a lot of people that are saying that reality itself changes. So what's real in this today is not going to be the same, years from now, days from now. It's changing.
Yeah, I've heard that as well. See, some of this is, I mean, it can be so deep, it's hard to wrap your head around. I think, because for me, it's one of those things it's not tangible, and makes it a little bit more difficult to grasp. Now, when I was younger, this was like right up my alley. This was the kind of shit that, I pondered on all kinds of weird shit, like, we're just like a dream in somebody else's head, like just weird shit like that, because what one person's reality is not another person's reality.
Mm-hmm.
And you made a pretty good point about like what you what's real in your mind, or what you perceive in your mind is reality. Because if you think about that, like insane people that are, and this is jokingly, but I mean it pretty serious, people that see shit and actually visually see shit, like crawling on them, or, little people walking around, the people that really see shit walking around and shit. How do you know that there's really not shit walking around in their reality? There probably is. I mean, who are we to say that there's not? Of course, we just label it, schizophrenia, or, some
Right.
sort of mental illness, and lock them away, But that kind of touches with the whole thing, and, of what you perceive as reality, But, that's one of those things. You're right. It's one of those things that our science can't prove or disprove,
Right. You can prove things are real, but you can't really prove that they're not real.
Right. Right.
Which is a huge problem. But even when you prove things are real, it's just, I don't know. A lot of people, I think, get tied up with the whole proof thing. And it's like, it's not necessarily as important as it's made out to be. Because what's proof enough for one person is not going to be proof enough for another person. Like, there's still speculation as to whether there's life outside the planet, as far as like intelligent life. And there's been a lot of proof to say, there are beings out there and they have been visiting, but, proof can be altered, it can be created, it can be manipulated. So to some people, they're not satisfied with that. And to them, there is no proof, or the proof isn't substantial enough. So, and the thing about anything related to paranormal, spirituality, philosophical things, there's really no proof of any of it. It's just your mind. It's very personal. Like, my beliefs are built upon things that have happened to me in my past, and the way I process information, et cetera, et cetera. So everyone's gonna come to a slightly different anyway, conclusion about anything. And I think that's why a lot of religions have such an issue with each other. They get caught in the little specifics, when in general, the majority of what they believe is very similar or the same. It's just these little things like, well, I don't agree with that, so I don't believe you. And I don't know. It's strange.
Well, the thing about the like the alien life, or intelligent alien life, that could be sort of the same thing if because not everybody or every human perceives them as a real thing. That's why we don't have proof of them. I mean, that's just a theory. I mean, hell, I don't know. Sounds good to me, right?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe as soon as everybody breaks down and says, "Holy shit, they're real," or I believe they're real, and therefore, when the entire human race, or I guess the majority of the human race, consciously believes that they are, then poof, all of a sudden they'll be real. I don't know. That's touching on what I was saying, a minute ago. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's a theory. Shit, I don't know. Sounds good to me.
Yeah, it's really strange. And then, like, I think that's why a lot of, like, when you think about paranormal stuff, like, for example, my dad, he's not completely closed-minded to it. He, opens, like, he's not completely closed off to it. Like, basically saying, okay, there might be some stuff out there, but whether he not believes it full-heartedly or not, typically no. Like, he doesn't really believe in hauntings and stuff like that, necessarily anyway. But do those things not exist to him because he doesn't believe in them? Because if you think about it, a lot of skeptics, well, I guess they wouldn't be skeptics if they saw it, but they don't seem to pick up on anything. Like, you know, we lived in the same houses where I was seeing a bunch of stuff, and my brother was seeing some things too, but neither of our parents saw anything. My stepmom never saw anything, at least not to my knowledge. And it's like, are they just not paying attention, or is it because their reality, these things don't exist and therefore they don't? I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I know you're not asking, but it could also be maybe they choose not to see it. Maybe they see it in a different point of view, or maybe they rationalize it as, oh, it's just the wind. You know, that's what you see what I'm saying? I mean, where somebody would say, holy shit, let's say you saw an apparition, like a full-blown true blue apparition. And who is it, your dad or somebody? They could say, well, it was a reflection of a car driving by. You know, in their mind, maybe because they are so unwilling to accept the fact that it truly was a full-blown apparition, maybe there was a car driving by. I mean, you know, I don't know. Maybe it's just because they don't want to admit, I guess is what I'm saying, because it would go against their core belief. You see what I'm saying? That's kind of really vague, but I know what you're getting at, and my example was pretty shitty.
Yeah, well, that's kind of like the theme of my life. So I tried to explain a movie the other night, and it was like the most horrible IMB or whatever those things are called ever. Like, I should not be writing summaries for anything.
IMDb.
Yeah. You see this lady, she lives in a house and she has children and stuff starts happening, and then there's time travel.
Yeah.
Anyway.
That's kind of like how I describe my shit, but sorry.
It was just, I have a big issue with it, and I don't know how to get better with it. I thought I had been progressing at one point, but it seems like I'm going backwards, and I don't know if it's just the sleep thing. I don't know. But it's like, lately it's been very difficult to put my thoughts into words. Maybe I just need to type the shit out and just like fucking read like a script, because I can write well, but speaking and trying to get my ideas, I think I just get nervous, and I get like, I don't want people to be waiting for my words, so I try to fill in, and
yeah,
I feel like I'm put on the spot. That's why I don't like public speaking, and that's part of the reason I started doing YouTube, is to become a better public speaker. Because prior to this, and like the beginning of my videos, they were terrible. Not that they're a whole lot better, but they were full of ums and likes. Like, if you were to take a shot every time you heard one of those, you'd be dead within like, I don't know, a minute. So yeah, anyway, we're gonna start breaking this down. I do have like some notes over here to try to be somewhat coherent and have things to talk about. So the first thing I said that was like an explanation of what reality is that we live in a simulation.
Yeah.
Now, as far as like who the creator of that simulation is, no one really seems to know. I guess it could be a god, for lack of a better term, which kind of makes sense. I mean, even if you go off the biblical story of how we were created, if you think about it as a creator creating reality as a simulation, because in their mind they're thinking of things and it's coming out, like, it would be kind of like a simulation.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, like I said, I don't put much credence. Is credence the right term?
Yeah.
I don't put much credence on the whole Bible, but I do think that, you know, it does have helpful information in it if you think of it the right way. And I don't know, it doesn't really contradict necessarily that we're living in a simulation. And it would explain And it kind of goes into the whole virtual reality thing or the hologram thing.
Yeah.
It would explain kind of like what the paranormal things are. Maybe they're glitches. Like maybe there's, not enough bandwidth, and, you start getting lagging and stuff like that. I mean, I don't know. It's possible.
Yeah, that's a really hard one to wrap my head around. I don't know. Yeah, I can't understand that one myself. That one's truly that one's a tough one, honestly. Because like you said, who's the cosmic originator of everything, or what? I guess I don't know that it would be a who, but it's I just, my brain's too feeble. I guess I can't do it.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, if you put yourself in the mind of some omnipotent, all-powerful type force, being, whatever, and you really had nothing going on, it was just a void. Because a lot of people think that we came from nothing. And all you had was nothing. How boring would that be? So you think of ways to stimulate yourself. You think of things to do and situations. Just like a lot of people write stories or they play video games or whatever the case may be. It's to preoccupy themselves, because otherwise they're just bored doing nothing. And maybe that's why we're here, because something was bored and decided to make all this shit, which, is like a great way to describe, our existence. But
we're a giant cosmic game toy.
Yeah, like a reality show, like South Park.
Yep.
You said that, Earth's like basically the Jerry Springer of the universe. All this crazy shit. These people fighting over dumb shit.
Yep. Because we probably are the backwoods of the universe, no doubt.
Gizzard, you're stupid. Guys, it's a hair clip. Come on now.
And I imagined it.
Yeah.
It wasn't there till I got on.
Right. But then you think about it, okay. And this is I'll bring up a prime example. And this could go, like, again, tying in with the paranormal, because I honestly thought something paranormal happened, because it just did not make sense. Okay, so I was given a gift. It was a quill pen from Germany. And for whatever reason, I had it on the couch. I think I was writing on our couch. This was a long time ago. It was in the house with it was in the house where most of the fucked up shit happened. So one day, I don't remember why, I was looking for it, because I had realized I misplaced it. And I looked everywhere. And the first place I looked, and I kept coming back and looking, because I know it was like the last place I had it, was on that couch. And I tore apart that couch, took all the cushions off, everything. Finally, I just said, fuck it. I give up. It sucks. I lost my pen. And then I don't remember how long after it. I don't think it was too long after that. I was just sitting in the living room, and for whatever reason, I felt in between the cushions, and the pen was right there. Like, that pen was not fucking there. It's a black pen. It's not like it was because our couch was like an off-white color. So black's going to stand out fairly well with all white or off-white couch. And it was right there. It wasn't hidden anywhere. It was just right there. It's like, how does that just materialize into the couch?
Yeah. I've had weird shit like that happen too.
So
that is a great example.
Yeah, that could be a computer glitch, because that happens in video games. Like I posted on Instagram where I was looking for a gun, because I saw the shadow of a gun on the ground, but there was no gun. So finally I look up, and there's just the gun floating in midair in the game, and I'm like, what the hell? So life could be like that, and the paranormal could just be a glitch. Why some people see the glitch and other people don't? Like, maybe they have a better computer system than the other person. and that's why they can pick up on things. I don't know. But
Where do you go to get yourself defragged then?
I don't know. I'm pretty fragged myself.
That's a really good that's a good example, you know. I mean, I've had weird shit like that happen too. Honestly, I can't explain them because I've had the exact same type situation happen. It's like, you know, you look at something or in a certain place, you look there and you know for a fact you look there time and time again, and then, you know, you turn your back or you're done looking, you get fed up, you say screw it, and then, you know, some time passes and then poof, it's there all of a sudden. You know, I can't explain that. You know, that's a yeah, that's I've had that happen. That is very. I don't know how to explain that one. A glitch sounds like a great example.
Why you be
And maybe
glitching?
like your theory of the glitch, you know, like the paranormal is, you know, maybe some people are just tuned to it. I don't know, and just some are and some aren't. You know, I don't know.
Yeah,
Some
maybe
have the
ran their
8.1
update.
and some have the 8.0.
Right. See, we're just saying the same thing. Um, but my thing is, and this is what trips me up about that, is if we're the simulation, which I guess it would, if you believe in an afterlife, it'd be kind of the same situation. So, what is existence life or like outside of this reality? Like, if everything was
Well,
created, then like what happens when we're no longer here? Do we just return to the nothingness?
that's you're touching on soul talk there because your your human body, your physical body will just, you know, turn back into dirt and, you know, the various elements that they are. You know, the energy that your body is made of will, you know, go back into the ether, you know, wherever, because energy cannot be destroyed. That's a proven fact. Um, Energy can only change forms. It cannot be destroyed. Um, so therefore, that describes your physical body. But your what you're talking about, your me or your personality, your spirit, your soul, that's debatable as to whether, you know, some of us do or don't have some. You know, I don't want to get into the religious aspect of it, but some say you don't have a soul, and we're just, you know, when you die, you die. You know, and some say when you die, your body stays on earth and your soul goes to heaven or hell. You know, or it turns into a butterfly. You know, whichever. You know, that's a personal journey, I think. So, but honestly, you know, I think honestly, if it's something like that, if it's not perceived, then you can't know about it. So there's really no way of really explaining that, you know, because if you don't know it, then it's not real. If that makes any sense at all. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
okay, like imagine, think back as far back as you can think. Try to remember the moment right before you were born. You know, nobody can. You know, you can't. Of course, I know your brain, your baby, and all that shit. But you know, all this history has passed. All this history that we know of now was apparently a reality up until, you know, poof, all of a sudden we're here. You know what I mean?
Or
That's
was it?
well, exactly. You
If you prescribe to the whole past, present, and future don't really exist,
know,
then there is no history.
well, then
There was
why
only,
are we still teaching it?
well, why do we teach a lot of things? We teach,
Well,
there's a lot of irrelevant shit that's taught, but
I agree.
I don't
I
know.
do.
It depends on how literal you want to break it down. Because, I mean, if their point is that the only moment that is truly real is the present, I kind of have to agree. Because when I think of even just yesterday, I cannot really accurately feel exactly what I was feeling yesterday. Like, it's almost as if it didn't happen, but it did because I have memories of it. But outside of the memories, what do you really have that's evidence that yesterday even happened? There really isn't. You can't really prove the past or the future. All you can prove is the present. Yeah. So if you think of it that way, to me that statement's true, or very highly likely. But that's
that's also getting into the whole thing about time, that time is not real, because time is only a human construct, you know, and that gets into that whole thing. Actually, you know, the whole theory of time could break down the present, past, and all that. That can break that down and, you know, actually get rid of it. So, but we're dealing with human problems, so that would be a human problem.
And going back into the simulation thing, and I can't delve too much into it because I honestly don't remember specifically, because I read a lot of shit over the past week or so, but they've actually found binary coding within our DNA. How do you explain that?
I've heard that. That's
fucked up. Like, everything can be broken down into binary.
Yep.
Something that we thought as humans we kind of created, but obviously we didn't, because it existed far before we knew what to do with it.
Yeah, that's I don't know how to explain that one either.
So it's like, is our existence now, was it created by a future existence that created us? Like, does that make any sense?
Yeah, some say so.
Yeah, like, you think about how advanced, and, you know, to me, we're still not as advanced as we could be, but how advanced we've come just in the last 100 years. So think about a future way, you know, more advanced, either future self or future beings.
Yeah.
They could have created us, knowing what we know now to create, I don't know. And that's, I guess, going, if, you know, like you were saying, time doesn't really exist, which it kind of doesn't in a way, at least, I don't know. It's very confusing. It's really it's hard to put your head on, you know. It's I don't know, it's too fucking complicated. Yeah, it's just like the whole astronaut thing. So you have twin brothers, one stays on Earth, one goes outside of the galaxy. In his perception, he's only gone like a day, but he comes back and his twin brother has aged like 80 years.
Yeah.
So I guess relative to where you're at in space is how fast time goes for you. Like, I guess time slows outside of Earth, supposedly.
Yeah.
Like, they actually did an experiment where a guy was traveling around the Earth and time did slow down.
Yeah, you're right. They've proven that with just a regular watch. You can be down on the surface of the Earth and get up in a like a high altitude jet, like just a 747, and travel, and the watch on the jet will go slower than the watch on the ground. It's that they've done that. They've proven that. And it's only by like a second or two, but it's a measurable amount, you know. And of course it works as, you know, the higher you go, and of course into space, you know. I don't know how the hell I don't know what that is. I used to dabble in, you know, some of that crap, but that got a little too too out there for me. That's kind of how they tried to explain that we can travel further and further in space because of that aspect, you know. Because a year on Earth is not the same as a year on Mars. You know, it's not the same amount of time. To a human, it would be the same amount of time because we measure it as 365 days, you know, sun ups and sun downs. But if you were to go to Mars and count 365 days, you're only there for like half of a Martian year, you know. So there's your time theory right there.
Yeah. Yeah, I find space very interesting, but depending on how like, oh my God, I started reading, I forget the name of the book, but it was about string theory.
Yep.
Good fucking grief. I really tried. I tried so hard to stick with reading that book, but it just goes so deep into shit that it's just like, I find myself like daydreaming within like reading the words. It's too much for me. I can't do it. And the fucking thing is thick. It's like that thick of a book. And, you know, I'm honestly not that much of a reader. Like, I have to be very, very interested in something to read. And I know that's a bad thing, but I'd much rather listen to something. Mainly listening, I think, is my favorite way of like retaining information. Not even so much watching, because sometimes watching I can get distracted too, because I have to pay too much attention to that thing. But I find that when I'm listening to something and then doing something else, I can pay attention more. And I think that's just my ADD or whatever. But I don't know. I couldn't hang with that book, and it had a lot of good points to it. I just couldn't get past. I think I made it to like 70 pages.
Yeah.
Out of like 500 or however fucking many. It was a lot. So
yeah.
I think I still have it in a box somewhere.
It's a very complicated theory.
Yeah. The next one is, well, the hologram thing kind of relates to the simulation. The next theory is the past, present, future exists all at once. To me, that makes a lot of sense. Because as I've stated before, and I don't like talking about it because it really makes me sound like a nut job, but one time I was actually able to see what happened the next day before it happened. And it was only like a brief moment. It was like less than a minute, I would say. And it was nothing profound. And at the time, I didn't really think anything of it until it actually happened just as I had seen it, you know, the next day. And there's a lot of things that can explain why that happened or how that happened. But to me, if everything is existing at once and we're kind of living in almost like a parallel universe type thing where it's not really a linear time thing, it's more of like a layered time thing, it would explain how I was able to do that and how sometimes the past, present, or future can kind of leak into each other because maybe there's just, I don't know if it's because of trauma, like certain areas may be more prone to it. Things like that where the layers between the time frames are thinner or they intersect. But it kind of explains ghosts to an extent because I've said it before, based on the things that I've seen and experienced, I'm not convinced that the ghosts or apparitions, whatever, that I've seen at least, are necessarily of dead people. I think that possibly they're still alive at the time, and for whatever reason, I was picking up on them in the current time. So it was more of looking back into time or forward into time, because like I said before, I can't really tell what time period they were from for the most part, but they weren't necessarily spirits of dead people. But that's just my personal, opinion, because it explains why some hauntings, which I think most hauntings are unintelligent, they're just residual. It explains how residual hauntings even happen, because they're not really hauntings. It's just because they don't pay attention to you. They don't acknowledge you in any way. They're just there. And someone's texting me. Okay. So it explains why you're able to, or why it happens, basically. Like, and who knows why it happens. Again, it could be something traumatic happening, because a lot of times when residual hauntings occur, it's at something that, at a place that had a lot of energy, whether it's a famous war site, or someone died in the house, something traumatic happened, and maybe that creates a ripple effect that kind of cuts through time. I don't know. Anyway, I'm just reading my notes. And then there's the, I guess, the definition of reality, or physicality itself, which is, again, related, but kind of like a separate thing all in and of itself, where you can either believe, these are the most popular beliefs, I guess, to put it the best way I can, is that the physical world exists even if we're not there to perceive it. And then the other alternate theory is that it's just the opposite. If the existence only exists because we're here to perceive it, we're here to, experience it. I'm more prone to the quantum realism, which is perception of existence. And maybe it's just my ego that makes me think that way. But I really don't think reality is as physical as we're led to believe. I think a lot of it is malleable. It's bendable. It's manipulated, or able to be manipulated, I guess. Hi, fake Mike. So I don't know, but that, again, it has a lot to do with your beliefs. And again, I'm more of a spiritual person. I'm not religious, and that's not to put anything against religion. It's just, it's not for me, at least not at this point in my life. So I believe that we all are all connected. I think that we're all, if not just connected, the same. And I don't know, it's really strange. But yeah. Jordan's funny. But yeah, it's something that I think about a lot. And I think it's mostly due to my fear of death, because, if you no longer I guess it's not death that necessarily bothers me. It's the idea of not existing. Like, non-existence is probably the scariest thing I could ever think of. Just the fact of being nothing. And I can't comprehend that. Like, it doesn't make sense to me. And I know, your body dies, but I guess what I have an issue, or have difficulty comprehending, is what exactly happens when you die. Because, I don't prescribe to the heaven thing. And I don't necessarily believe in reincarnation. I don't completely rule out anything, but I don't know. I personally don't remember anything from, like, any previous lives or anything like that, or lives. So I guess that's like a whole, you don't believe what you haven't experienced thing. I don't know. I guess I just haven't come across enough reasons to believe that it happens, at least not in the way I guess most people would think. I do believe energy is, as Yeti was saying, you can't destroy energy. It just moves from one medium to another. And that's been proven. And I do believe that to an extent. But my thing is okay, the energy isn't destroyed, but is the consciousness, I don't know why I have trouble saying that word, is that itself destroyed? Because to me, and this was the issue I had with enlightenment, because with enlightenment, pretty much you're supposed to give up your ego. And ego not meaning, that you're full of yourself. Ego meaning your identification to yourself as an individual. You're basically giving away your individuality, saying that you, as the you that you perceive, does not exist. And since my fear is non-existence, it kind of scared me. So that's a big part of why I didn't delve into it further. I did try for a while to just kind of stick with, researching it and trying to do things that would lead me to an enlightenment. But when it came down to it, I was pretty much blocking myself because of my fear, because, everyone's enlightenment's different. And I don't know if I could even reach it, let alone handle it once I did. And yes, it does have a lot to do with Buddhism, which I do, if there were any religion or spirituality view that I agree with the most, it probably would be Buddhism, just because I agree with a lot of what it teaches, and I think it's a very good way to live your life. But I don't think any one view is completely good in and of itself, which is why I don't prescribe myself to be any particular thing, because nothing completely describes how I feel. But he's stupid. Anyway, yeah, it's really baffling when you really research and read and listen to all the different theories of why we're here. And it's not just like the meaning of life as far as like what our goal in life should be or anything like that, but it's just how we even came into existence and why. Like, what is the purpose? And that's something, again, that I've struggled a lot with, is like purpose in life. Like, what is my purpose in life? And that's one thing with enlightenment. You're supposed to give up your purpose. Like, there is no purpose to life. There's none. So stop looking. You're not going to find it because it doesn't exist. So you don't exist. Purpose doesn't exist. There's a lot of just non-existing stuff. And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that. But with me, my rebuttal or query about that whole situation is, if there is no purpose of life, if I don't exist, what is the purpose? Like, how do you go on living knowing that there's just no purpose? Like, what are you supposed to be doing with your time? Like, what are you supposed to be doing? Like, what's driving you? What's your end goal? That's the thing I don't understand.
Yeah, it's just a big cosmic joke. It sounds like a cosmic, video game. Somebody's just watching for entertainment reasons only. I don't know.
Jordan, the philosopher. I don't know. I mean, again, I think it has a lot to do with me being so high strung, is that while Jordan's statement makes perfect sense to me logically, I cannot imagine myself doing that. Like, there is this guy, because I've watched a couple of different people who have claimed to be enlightened or go through enlightenment, and how they perceive enlightenment and how it's changed them and the way that they live their life and all that. And the one guy I talked about in the beginning of the show didn't really agree with a lot of what he was saying. And the second guy seemed a little bit more what I would perceive to be enlightened. And I know that's kind of judgmental, but he literally would just go out on a bench. And it was kind of like, I guess, a form of meditation, if you think about it. And he would not think anything. He would just observe.
Mm-hmm.
He had no purpose of being there, no intention of being there. He just observed things. He observed the grass, the birds, people walking by, made no judgments about them.
Mm-hmm.
Just merely observed. And if you think about that, if you really tried to do that in real life, I doubt you could do it for any longer than maybe 5 minutes.
Yeah, without
like not having judgment on anything, just merely receiving, being receptive.
Yep.
It's very difficult.
Yeah. Yeah, it's, well, just personally, I mean, for me, I can't because of the way my brain wanders. You know, there's no way that I could sit there and not start questioning or wondering. You know, I couldn't do it. There's no way. I couldn't do it for a minute, I don't think. Just knowing how my brain works.
Yeah, and that's my issue with meditation. That's one reason I do like ASMR, because it's about the closest I can get to being meditative.
Yeah.
Because it gives me something to focus on that isn't too distracting. Like, it's enough to keep my attention to an extent, but not enough for me to be consumed by it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my form of meditation lately, is that I find it very relaxing. And that's pretty much what I'm doing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, Jordan has a pretty good point. It is an overused term. But that's neither here nor there, I suppose.
I'm just reading my notes.
Yeah, I used to have a really, I can't put it into words anymore. My, you know, kind of like what I was saying about everything being a dream, like a dream within a dream or something. Like somebody else's dream is our reality. I wish I could articulate that properly. When I was younger, of course, I could do it, but of course I was also smoking a lot more medication back in those days.
Yeah.
So I guess that shut down the expansion of my mind when when I cleaned myself up. My mind stopped expanding, and now it's doing like a rubber band and retracting.
I'm like, I have these notes over here, and like I have no idea what I was trying to get at with them.
Random notes.
I mean, they tied in with what we were talking about or supposed to be talking about. I think the point of me writing this was to prove that we actually came from space, like human beings came from space, and they actually found proof of it to an extent. But there's this thing called Sagittarius B2.
Yeah.
Where they found a new molecule called isopropyl cyanide, which has a branched carbon structure that's found in amino acids. And prior to this, I don't think they had found amino acid strands anywhere else in the universe besides Earth.
Right. because amino acids are the building block of life.
Right.
But I have a question. How the hell did they find something way the hell out there? How did they find an amino acid out there?
Alma
I
did.
mean,
Whatever Alma is. I forgot what Alma is. ALMA. I think it was a powerful telescope.
I'll have to look into that.
Yeah. Gizzard's stupid. Anyway. And this is okay, this is like kind of not related, but since we're talking about space. Okay. So I was thinking about this the other night, and it may or may not make sense. So we'll just throw that out there before I even get into it. So you have the galaxy, and they say that when you're looking up at the stars, you're actually looking back in time because of the distance between you and the star. The light that's shining that you're perceiving is so old that sometimes that star doesn't even exist anymore. So technically, you're looking back into time.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's like fact. So my theory is, okay, what if that's like more literal than just that? Like, what if when you're looking into space, you're actually looking into our past and not just the past? You know what I'm saying? Like when you're looking at this galaxy that has like, because they found galaxies that are similar to ours. Like, what if that really is us, but like you're pretty much kind of going back into time by traveling through space?
What, just by observing the light of the star?
Well, like our satellites and shit that like go like on Mars.
Yeah.
And, like, we have satellites that go further outside of our galaxy than here.
Right.
And actually observing these planets. And mind you, it's still pretty crude, the images they're able to get and stuff like that. But like, what if the images that they're getting are really us? It's like we're looking back at on ourselves before we came into existence as humans. Like you're looking at the Earth's beginning. I don't even know if that's like physically, like scientifically possible, but it's just something I was thinking about because they say, like I said, you know, when you're going through space, your kind of time isn't really as, you know, meaningful, or it's not as important, I guess, when you're in space. It's
sorry.
Yeah, it's like distorted, it's whatever.
So are you saying that theoretically, if you were to get on a ship or a plane or whatever and fly, at the star you're looking at, that you're observing, and you could fly yourself to that star, and by continually observing it, would it be a place in history? Or in our history, of course, it would actually be there? Is that what you're kind of getting at?
I don't know.
Or way off?
Well, I mean, I guess it's like a byproduct of my theory, but I forget, this is like bad, but I forget even why I was thinking this, like what brought me to like this conclusion or this theory. I guess it was because of the Big Bang and how they're still supposedly seeing light that came from it after all these years, and how
they're still hearing it.
Yeah. And like the whole black hole thing, like black holes are some fucked up shit. And there's supposedly at least one black hole in the center of the Milky Way.
They're starting to believe so, yeah.
Yeah. So, and they're saying that black holes actually might be, I don't know if it was what created it or just like indicative of like a Big Bang or whatever, but it's supposed to have some like relation to it. So in theory, every time you see a black hole, there could be a whole nother universe out on the other side of it.
Well, that you can't really say. Well, according to the theory, though, that's an impossibility because there is no other side to a black hole. It's not like, something goes in and pops out the other side.
But they,
you know.
but they've never been through the other side, so how would they know?
No, well, they're going on mathematical theory. That, I mean, you would be crushed just by approaching, just to approach it, and then once you go in it, you'll be stretched to nothingness and you will cease to exist. That's the theory. I mean, because the gravity is so great that nothing can withstand. I mean, light can't even escape it. That's, you see what I'm saying? So nothing could come out the other end of it. You know what I mean? Yes, and that's true. You cannot see a black hole. That's a good point, Jordan. It's only able to be observed by the stars and other light around it. They also believe that there are far, far more black holes than they used to think. And there's also things called wandering black holes that are just rogue black holes that just creep around the universe.
So what do you think?
Which is really a scary thought.
Yeah. So what do you think exists outside, on the other side of the black hole? Nothing?
Nothing. It's the same thing that exists on the front side of it. You got to remember, you got to remember, it's 3-dimensional. It's not 2-dimensional. It's not like a disc. It's not like a circle, and things are going into it. It's like I hate to say it, but it's like a ball. You're not just seeing it one way. It's the same. It looks the same way from all different directions. So nothing can come in and go out. You see what I'm saying? Look at Earth. Okay, you see Earth. Now just paint it black, and put a shit ton of gravity on it. Nothing can come. What goes into it is just going to go in. There's not another side. You see what I'm saying? There's not another side to a sphere. There's only the internal of it.
Yeah,
if that makes any sense.
I mean, it makes sense. It's just, I don't know. I think I would have to think it has to go somewhere, because otherwise, what's stopping it from it's sucking all this stuff into it? Then what happens to it? Supposedly you can't destroy anything. So what happens to it? How can it turn into nothing? How can you take something and turn it into nothing?
Exactly. There's a thing that happens when a black hole stops becoming a black hole. I think it's sort of like what happened at the Big Bang. I used to know all this shit. Something does happen at the end of the life of a black hole. God damn it. I wish I had my fucking book. I didn't know we were going to get on this topic. I'm sorry. But
with me, it's just random fucking shit.
But as far as the black hole, I know everything goes to the inside of it. It's crushed and it's basically obliterated. You're right. In theory, where does everything go? Because you cannot destroy. Well, you can destroy matter, but you cannot destroy energy. They say that, I guess maybe the energy makes the black hole bigger. I don't know. Maybe we do need to get Michio Kaku here.
That man is fascinating.
Yeah, he is. He's a smart mofo.
Right. I was thinking the same thing. That is a smart motherfucker.
Yep.
They had him, I think, on Paratopia, I think. I know he's been referenced a lot in that show, but I don't remember if they'd actually got him on yet or on. But yeah, I don't know. I don't want to think about that anymore.
Well, I was just going to say, that's the thing about black holes. A lot of, most common people think they see a black hole. Well, you can't see a black hole. They're detected. They're not seen because you can't see it. It's a force of gravity. It's not an actual physical thing.
Yeah.
I mean, its perimeters can be detected because of seeing things, being absorbed by it, because nothing, it doesn't really suck things into it. They just get encompassed by it. It's that's damn it. We'll have to come back to this one. Damn it, Ren. I'm all confused now. I used to be on point with this theory too.
Yeah, that is another show I want to do eventually. Dark matter, black hole,
Yeah.
that kind of shit. That shit's scary too. That's some scary shit right there.
Well, wandering black holes is really scary. That's very frightening to me.
Yeah. Anyway.
Sorry.
My fault. I started talking about Sagittarius B2. I was like, fuck vitamin. Gizzard's getting rowdy.
He's speaking Australian.
Yeah, I gotta remember that. I'm so used to sensitive Americans. Jordan's actually a very smart guy, especially considering he's only 21.
Yeah, he does sound like a fairly intelligent motherfucker.
Yeah, you wouldn't.
Of course, I used to be intelligent at that age too until I picked up my brain.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's part of why I still do research on this stuff because, I'm not in school anymore. I've thought about studying, computer stuff to get like my A+ certification, that kind of stuff. But, when I'm honest with myself, it's just not interesting to me. I mean, it is, but not to that level.
Yeah.
So it's just like, what am I interested in? Well, I'm interested in this, and it is something that's mentally stimulating. So it's like some form of brain exercise, because otherwise I just feel like, well, I guess this job is helping too, but for a while I just felt like my brain was just it was not being used at all because my job wasn't stimulating. I like video games, but are they really all that mentally stimulating? Not necessarily. Jordan's stupid.
Oh, I'm going to pay for that one.
Well, he's saying that because he hasn't really spoken with you all that much, Jordan. So he doesn't really have much to go on.
We'll have to get him on here one of these days.
Yeah, I told him he could. There was a suggestion of a show a while ago that we were supposed to do, and then he just kind of fell off the face of the earth for a while. So I was like, oh, okay, well, I guess somebody pissed him off. Ohio finally, had its way with him. I don't really know. Ohio diddled him.
Oh, no. Poor Jordan. I'm so sorry, dude. Did they diddle you in the middle of the night?
Yeah. That late night diddling.
Man. I'll never look at him the same again.
Anyway. So, all that being said, try to bring this around home. Do you have one theory that you prescribe to or think is more likely than the other theories as far as what is real? Does real even exist? What is our existence?
Oh, shit. I wouldn't even know how to answer that. Honestly, man, I don't know. I'll have to turn in an essay or something because I honestly don't know how to answer that. All the theories, none of the theories make sense to me. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, I do get I don't know. Maybe I guess I would have to say if you can perceive it, then it's real, or that's reality. I suppose that would have to be my answer. Yeah, we'll go with that.
That's pretty much where I'm at.
Yeah.
Which is ironic.
It just gets too confusing, honestly. Well, not I don't mean that it's confusing. It's just that it doesn't work in my construct. You know what I mean? In my
Conflicting.
yeah, it conflicts with the way I see everything. Yeah. So there you go. I choose A.
Yeah, that's kind of like where I'm at right now. Because it's the only thing. And it's like, okay, if that's what we're sticking with, and reality is just perception. So basically, our perception is our reality, not just like some cliche phrase. That's how it really is. So does that mean that every single person, reality is different and catered to that person? Because perception is reality and no one's perception is completely the same. So reality exists, like there's multiple realities within the same reality.
I would buy that. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. I mean, we're all on the same ship, you know, but I think everybody's individual ride is different. So
Yeah.
yeah, to me that yeah, that does I get that. That does make sense to me.
Yeah. And honestly, the one thing I did take away from the whole spiritual journey into spiritualism is I do believe to some degree we're all the same being. Because I do, I think most people would agree that there is a connection between everything in existence, whether it be a small one or a larger one. I think that reality or everything in existence is the same thing, except it's different views of it.
Mm-hmm.
So you think of
Yeah.
it like as like a mirror or something like that, or like a video camera placed here, 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 here. It's all watching the same thing, and it's all technically the same thing because they're all linked together like a big video feed. It's just the cameras are placed differently, and that's the difference between the one feed. So it's
Right.
all
Like
the same.
point of view,
Yeah.
maybe.
I don't know.
I get it.
And I think that the creator is just the original consciousness.
The original imaginator.
Yeah.
The creator is the one who originally imagined it or thought
Yeah.
it, I guess.
So technically, I guess we would be, if my theory were correct, somebody's dream, which is what you had kind of mentioned earlier.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Or how about let's go back to another episode. What about if we're just a thought form? We're an imagined tulpa and we've manifested into a reality.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Delusions of Johnny.
Shit.
Yeah. I mean, my dreams are pretty fucked up. So
Yeah.
if I'm merely the byproduct of the original dreamer, that means that original dreamer, he's got some messed up dreams too.
Yeah.
What did I dream about last night? I don't even remember. It was stupid though. I hate stupid dreams.
Mine are usually terrifying.
Yeah,
But
I don't
none
know.
of them make sense. They never make sense.
Well, for the longest time, I was actively trying to lose, or not actively trying, I was actively lucid dreaming, where I was trying to take control of the dream. And to a point, or there came a point where it was having bad effects. So I kind of just tried to let go, and I'm like, okay, well, no matter how much I try to control the dream, there are certain parts of it that I just can't control because it keeps. It's hard to explain. So basically, like, for example, I have a dream and I know it's going to a bad place because I have a lot of nightmares or dreams that aren't that good. And I try to counteract it by thinking of something else or having like an alternate situation. Well, I have the alternate situation happen, but then something bad happens there, and it just keeps happening and happening and happening. Right. So it really
like
doesn't.
A domino effect.
Yeah, it's just like, as much as I try to combat the original bad thing, it just moves on to a different bad thing. So pretty much lately, I, for the most part, try not to control it. I'm just like, okay, I'm going to be dreaming. And I'm just going to let it go where it goes. I'm not going to try to think, because like that was another thing I was trying to do, is like make myself dream about a certain place or a certain, because like I have a lot of reoccurring dreams. So like I'll try to go back to that dream and like continue it or whatever the case may be. And it typically did not work for one reason or another. So finally I was just like, I'm just going to try to let myself go. Like, and maybe that was a lesson that my brain was trying to teach myself, is to stop trying to be so controlling, because it's something I try to do in my real life, is control everything. And that usually just stresses me out, and nothing really goes the way I want it to go anyway. So what's the point? You're just stressing yourself out over nothing.
Right. I sent you, did you see that thing I sent you today?
I watched some of it. It kind of like turned me off because the phase. It's like, why are you calling it the phase? Like, isn't it just like lucid dreaming and or out of body experience?
They were using that term, and that's the way I took it, that they were using the term the phase as the lucid dreaming. That's the way I took it. I mean, I don't know, I might be wrong.
My problem with that is it seems like they're trying to invent something that's already been invented. Like, OBEs have been talked about for a while now. Yeah, but they were trying to like, oh, it's this new thing, the phase. Like, no, like, it's OBEs. And people have been talking about that for a long time. And they try to make something like an original idea out of something that has already been said. That was my issue with it. And at some point, I honestly, I just had to shut it off. I couldn't deal with it anymore.
Yeah, I didn't make it very far either, but I thought that first little bit was kind of interesting.
I mean, yeah, when I originally heard about the concept, it was interesting, but you know, it's not an original concept, and I don't like when people try to take credit for other people's, you know, discoveries or realizations.
Right.
You know, I fully admit that a lot of the way that I think now are due to other people's original thoughts, or what I can trace back to them, because I don't know who. I'm sure they were inspired by somebody else who was inspired by somebody else, but I don't take credit for it. Like, yeah, I learned about this on Paratopia. I found this on Reddit. I found this here, this here, this here. Like, I'm not going to say, oh, I thought of it, I'm such a genius. Like, that shit kind of pisses me off. But I listened to part of it, and some bits of it were interesting, like people trying to do studies about lucid dreaming. That's interesting. And how common it is, opposed to, because you would think, like, honestly, in my real life, I've only met maybe 2 or 3 people that have had an out-of-body experience or have like separated from their body. So to me, that's not common.
Yeah,
but could just be a geographical thing. Maybe I just happen to live in an area where they don't talk about it, or it just doesn't happen. And maybe it's a lot more common elsewhere. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I think it's very rare.
Yeah, I honestly, like astral projection type, you know, detaching from the body, any of that. I don't think I've ever had an out-of-body experience. Astral projection, possibly, but it's kind of hard to know without some kind of proof. Be like, okay, I saw this while I was there, and this actually exists in real life, so therefore something must have happened. I've never had that happen. But I've told you about my weird things at night, and I've had some weird dreams that just felt different than the normal dream.
Yep.
And I don't know what those are. I have no idea, but they feel different.
Yeah, if you get that,
So,
oh, I'm sorry.
no,
If
it's
you
just,
get that astral projection down and you get it, you get it figured out, please let me know, because I would love to check that out and get into it, for real life, if it is real, because I have heard what you say about it, and I've looked into it quite a bit, but I don't know how to do it, or if it is in fact a true thing. Yeah, that's one of those deals, but I would love to experience it if it is real.
okay, well, I'll tell you what the one friend that, well, she claims she did it, and I don't like to ever question people. I try to take people at their word that they're not bullshitting, but it is hard, especially with her, because she liked to elaborate on things every now and then, or rather. But she claims the way she was able to do it was it was always before she would go to sleep, or she'd lay down to go to sleep. She would lay on her back, and then I felt her kind of drifting to sleep, she would sit up. But when she sat up, it wasn't her physical self that was sitting up. It was her energy. And in and this kind of like is kind of like what made me think, well, kind of weird. But she says that there's a silver string attached to your body.
Yeah.
While you're roaming around. Now, mind you, she is Wiccan, so I don't know if that's a Wiccan thing. I don't know. But the string severed. You either can't come back, or it's very difficult to make it back to your body. I don't know.
Right.
But that's how she was able to do it. It's just, and it wasn't like I'm going to do this and then it happened. Like, it took time. It took, focus and stuff like that. But that's how she was able to do it. So maybe something to try. So if people see Yeti in his recliner doing sit-ups, he's just trying to OBE. It's the OBE workout.
No shit.
But yeah. But yeah, that's pretty much, I think we're on the same page. We usually are. We don't really... Yeah. Maybe it'd be more interesting if we were more conflicting in our beliefs, but...
I know, we always tend to jive pretty close.
Yeah, it's just... I don't know. And like I said, I'm open to a lot of explanations. I'm not egotistical enough to believe that my perception or my theories are the one that's the legit one. It's just what I believe at the time. And that may change. And it probably will change, because it has several times before. I used to be religious. I used to believe, in all that kind of stuff. I don't want to get into that. And, over time and just research and reflecting on how I felt truly outside of being fearful of what would happen if I didn't think that way, I realized that I really didn't believe that. I just believed it because I was afraid of what would happen if I didn't. And to me, that's not good enough. It's not good enough to me to believe in something just because you're afraid of what happens when you don't. But that's a
great point. Excellent point. Couldn't have said it better myself.
But, I try to take bits and pieces from every kind of view or philosophy or whatever, because I think there's a lot to be gained in a lot of different ways. Just like I said, Buddhism, I think, has a lot of good points to it. Spirituality or spiritualism has a lot of good points to it. Christianity, all of that. I think something can be learned from any viewpoint. It's just being open enough to accept it and to acknowledge it. Like, you don't have to be one thing or the other. You can be bits and pieces of everything. But that's getting into... Yeah. I don't know if that would be socialism or what that would be. I don't want to get into that.
Yeah. Making your own your own beliefs or your own religion, basically. I
Well,
don't know.
spiritual view. Religion is
Yeah,
pretty much
yeah. I apologize. I use religion too
loose.
much. Yeah,
Yeah.
because it is completely different. I tend to use it because that's what most people associate with when they hear. Yeah, that's
Spirituality.
yeah,
Yeah, that kind of
yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
Because you're right. Because well, it's not that show. I won't bring it up.
Well, religion is ritual, is
Yeah,
basically what it is. It's a ritual, and like if you look up the actual
the
definition, it pretty much says
definition
what it is.
exactly.
But
Something you do. Yeah, religiously.
ah, anyway, so I don't know if you want to talk about it on air because like we're gonna be wrapping up shortly. Like the next topic because I feel like I've picked the last several topics, if not all of them. So, was there anything in particular you want to talk about? Some suggestions have been out of body, which is something I do. I want to make sure I do enough research on it before talking about it.
Yeah.
But I still have that in the back of my mind to do. Someone wanted to do something about ghosts. We haven't done ghost in a minute, so maybe that'd be something to do.
That'd be
Like historical hauntings, like someone mentioned the Civil War of like I think it said 1802 in Toronto, or I wrote it down. It was something in
1802.
Canada.
1802 wasn't the Civil War.
No, it
But
was in Canada.
oh,
Like they're 1812 Canada haunting.
oh yeah, that was the other day, wasn't it?
Yeah, I wrote it down somewhere else. And then the missing people would be a good one.
Yeah, the 411.
Yeah,
Yep,
that's
that
some
was one
scary.
that was actually one I was going to suggest, but I didn't know if you wanted to discuss it elsewhere first or yeah, because that could be a very long episode. Honestly, there's a there's a lot of information there, and it is. You're right. It's scary shit.
Because
Scary shit.
it's one of the things that's backed up by actual numbers.
Yep.
Like there's no doubt that there are this many missing people. Who knows why they're missing? They really haven't figured that one out. But they're missing.
Yep. And they're all in
Mentioned,
national parks.
right.
God damn it, Jordan.
Look, I'm trying to move, okay? It's just not going to happen anytime soon. We could also talk about like urban legends. I think that would be an interesting one because someone mentioned a legend that I've never heard of called Bye Bye Man. I still haven't looked that up. I'll probably do that after here. I've never heard of Bye Bye Man. Have you heard of him?
Yeah, no, I saw that the other day too, and yeah, I didn't look it up either. That might be one of those regional things, Of course, I mean everybody's got a Crybaby Bridge, everybody's heard of Bloody Mary, but each little town or whatever has their own little, urban legend. So it might be just that certain area. I've never heard of it.
Yeah, I've never heard of it either. But that could be something interesting to do. Is just like the different urban legends and are there any like facts behind them or how they became an urban legend? That could be something to do. So yeah. I'm thinking something ghost related though. Because we haven't done anything ghost related in a while.
Yeah, let's mix it up a bit. It sounds good.
Yeah. So we'll talk, I guess, more off air than about specifically what ghost types of stuff you want to do.
Right on.
But yeah, we're gonna wrap this up. Does anyone have any questions before we any questions? I don't usually ask that at the end of the show. I just like peace out.
The Green Man's not an urban legend, or unless you're thinking of something other than the mythological thing. The Green Man of the Forest. We might be on two different topics, Jordan.
I've never heard of it either way.
It goes back to ancient Greece and all that shit. It's just I'll have to explain it to you. Ah, okay. Thank you. No questions?
Well, it might be a little delayed. Ranch
Yeah.
dressing.
I'm reminding them.
Hey, ranch dressing is good as fuck, so. You get crickets.
Yep. That's what I was just about to say.
They're like, y'all talk so damn much, we ain't got no questions. How are babies made?
Well, you see, when a man and a woman love each other so much.
No, monkey. I don't.
I did once, but it was a greasy dream. You slow on that one, Giz? Or are you reiterating it, I think?
He likes to copy people's stuff. He's like a parrot.
I don't know. Giz is pretty unique.
I don't know. No one has any questions, though.
Yeah. I don't have a belly button, so I wasn't born.
There you go. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. And like I said, if you have any suggestions that haven't been mentioned, I want to put them in the comments below. Do that. Also, as I stated before, if any of y'all want to come on, like we'll do like a special show 1 week where people come on, talk about their experiences, like individually, like one after another or whatever. Because again, I don't want it to be too congested with people because it gets too hard to control and people are talking over each other and stuff like that. So if you wanted to do that, I think that'd be very interesting. Just message me on Google Plus. Google Plus is better than YouTube messages because we don't really see those. They don't notify us of them. So just like add me on Google Plus and message me there, and then we can set up, if that's something of interest, or maybe something we'll start doing at the end of the shows, leave some time available and have somebody come on at the end of the show and give their opinion on stuff or their experience with that situation. I think that'd be interesting.
Yeah.
More interactive.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, that's about it. Bye.